Hey guys, so today I wanted to try to do a very minimal no makeup type of look. So it's going to be no foundation, and unlike other videos you've probably seen where it's like, oh, no foundation makeup look, and it looks like it's full glam, but they use a ton of concealer instead of foundation. This is not going to be that video. So I've put together some of the products I like to use when I'm going to go out the door super quickly and I have absolutely no time to get ready and I just want to look a little bit more alive, but not super obviously that I want to wear makeup. So the first thing that I like to start with is the order I'm going to go with might seem a little bit weird, but I kind of go in level of importance. So depending how much time I have, then I add another step and another step. But typically I like to start, of course, with good skincare prep. So you want to make sure that your skin is looking very hydrated, because there's nothing worse than going out with your skin super dry and crusty looking. And because I have dry skin, moisture is my friend. And as you guys know, I like to use sunblock as well. So very important. And as always, the products that I use are going to be mentioned in the description below. So you want to make sure that your skin looks very glowy and hydrated. So I like to layer moisturizing spray along with the cream that I like to use and the sunblock. I guess this is going to be good practice for me doing my actual passport pictures. If this goes successfully, this is the exact same look I'm going to use. But basically, my first video, which if you know, you know, it was quite long. But in that first video, I did a full glam because I said, you know what, it's a passport picture, I want it to look nice. I ended up having to redo them because I had highlighter, and they basically don't want you to use any highlighter, so I had it on the tip of my nose. And that was actually the one that was giving problems, just the tip on the nose highlighter, so they don't want you to do that anymore. Alright, so my skin is prepped. I've moisturized. I have applied sunblock. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply blush. So I'm going to be using the Rare Beauty blush. This is just in the shade Happy. And what I like to do, because this is a very pigmented blush, I actually like to apply it to the back of the hand, and you're not going to be using that much. I'm just going to put some on here. And you can always add, but it's harder to take away, so that was a relatively generous amount. And I'm just going to take a blush brush, and I'm going to start coating the brush with it. And so the reason that we like to do this is because it is, again, a very pigmented blush. Imagine putting this to the cheek straight away and then trying to blend that out. It's going to be very difficult, not impossible, but tedious. Instead, we're going to coat the bristles on the brush, and then we're going to go in to apply where we want it. So as you can see, it is still a lot because it is pigmented, but it's a lot more of what we actually want to work with. And similar to the bronzer, I like to place this in key areas like, of course, my cheeks because it is blush. I also do the tip under my nose and the chin area. Alright, once I have applied the blush, probably looks like I'm blushing very hard, but now I'm actually going to go in with not quite a concealer. This is called the NARS Light Reflecting Eye Brightener in the shade Golden Eye. So it's kind of like a concealer. It's not as heavily pigmented. It is very generously pigmented. I am lucky enough to not have super dark circles under my eye, but this does help conceal whatever is there. So I'm just going to apply it right in there. And I'm going to blend it out. And I didn't put on too much, as you could see. Again, it's just enough to liven up the face a little bit, just so it looks like you got enough rest. And I'm going to concentrate on the inner corner here, dragging it out just a tiny bit, not too much. Because we're not going to be wearing foundation, we just want to be very light with the amount of products that we use on the face. So now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and work on my brows. I'm just going to take a brow pencil. This is the Sephora Collection brand one. And this one does have two different ends, so it has the little spoolie on one end and the pencil on the other. I'm just going to brush my brows up. And I'm going to start filling in the areas that are a little bit sparse that I want to fill in more. And as you can see, I'm not very careful of my placement here. I do have relatively generously populated brow hairs. So I'm just literally filling in some of the areas that could use a little bit more depth so it looks like they have more hairs. If you do have thinner brows, of course, you're going to want to do the brush strokes for each brow hair. And now I like to brush upwards, just to blend that in a bit more in case there are any harsh lines that I wasn't intending to place. And I can fill in any sparse areas a little bit more. And brush them through. Alright, now that the brows are done, I'm going to go ahead and, this look doesn't require for you to use mascara. You can if you want. I'm not going to for today's look. But I'm going to, okay, this combination is a little bit unconventional. I'm going to scooch in closer. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to go in with full liner just because of my eye shape. I do tend to find that the hood can make it a little bit more challenging to do a liner if I'm not using any type of shadow, and it can easily swallow up all of my lid. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little flick at the end, just so it looks, it's going to give a little bit more depth, so it's going to look like you have more lashes than you really do. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the thinnest possible line just at the corner of the eye and flick it upwards as if it were a lash. So you are going to see here just in a second what I mean. Just like that. And I'm going to repeat the same on the other side. You can kind of see what I did there. And now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take a dark gray toned pencil. This is the one that I'm going to use. This is again from the Sephora collection. And I'm going to connect that a little bit more to the actual lashes themselves. And I'm going to bring that out towards that little tail I did. I'm going to blend it inwards about to, if I look straight onto the mirror, about where the colored part of my eyeball, where that begins. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm just getting as close as possible to the actual lash line. And you can also smudge it out with your finger if your pencil does allow for that, in case you feel it's looking a little bit thick. What I like to do as well is on the end, not sure if you can see, but I did go past the liner I did. I'm just going to take the tip of my nail, kind of brush that upwards and outwards. This is also another good trick you can use to make your tail end of your liner look a little bit sharper. It doesn't always work if you might have all of your foundation in place, but in this case, because I just have my creams, I should be able to do it. Wipe away whatever you don't want. I'm actually going to go back with the liquid liner to do that flick again. I'm going to fill it in again with the gray to connect. Alright, so as you can see, it did give a little bit more depth, and now, which is going to help blend everything together, is I'm going to curl my lashes. I know a lot of people have a hard time when working with lashes, especially applying mascara, not to open their mouth, and I'm always trying to be super conscious about it because we end up looking very silly with the face we make. I haven't been blessed with the best lashes. Mine are short, straight, and they can't hold on to curl for their life. Of course, if I use a waterproof mascara, they do hold on to curl, but I don't always like to do that. So you can probably tell a difference right now with the curl and without the curl. I haven't applied any mascara, and this isn't amazing long lashes, but it does make quite a difference. As you could tell, it does help blend in that line that we did as well. And so I'm just going to curl the other side. And as I'm curling, I'm following kind of like an upward trajectory. So I squeeze at the base, angle it, and squeeze all the way up. Alright, so hopefully this does look like I look a little bit more alive. Depending on what, I guess you could be using a highlighter, but what you use to brighten underneath the eyes. If you do notice that there is some, or that the concealer tends to accumulate under the eye, we all have natural wrinkles, no matter what age you are, underneath the eye. But so if you do want to avoid that, so you could probably see I do have a little bit going on here. What you could do is you can actually set it. So this is something I like to do as well once I've done the liner and applied some concealer or brightening cream under the eye. I'm going to set it the same way I would do it if I was doing heavy makeup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pressed powder. I'm going to apply some. Smooth out any lines you might have just to make sure you're not setting that in place. And you're going to apply it right underneath the eye. This is a good step for you to do as well after you've done that liner tail, just because it's going to help to make sure that there's no transfer underneath. So I'm going to repeat this step on the other side. And now that I've laid down a generous layer of that loose powder, I'm going to drag it down to some of my visible pore areas here. I'm actually going to do a lighter version of baking. So I'm going to take my pressed powder. I'm going to use a dry makeup sponge. Remember, if you are using liquids, you always want to wet your sponge. If you're using powders, you can use it dry if you want. And I'm just going to apply some to the sponge here. And I'm going to bake underneath. And remember, because we're not wearing any foundation, you're not setting a base down for the items you're putting up on your skin. So it's very important for you to moisturize enough if you do have dry skin like me. And we're going to make sure we put enough underneath where that tail end of the liner is. We're going to leave this for a couple of seconds. I'm actually going to go in and finish on my brows. So I'm going to take some brow gel. And I'm going to apply it. So I'm going to brush in the opposite direction of where my brow hairs go. That's going to make sure that I coat my brows sufficiently. And then I'm going to brush this upwards. Depending what type of brush you're using for your brows. If it has like a flat side like this one, you can kind of see it has a little flat edge to it as well as the spoolie side. You can press down on them to make sure they stay where you want them to be. And I'm going to repeat the same on the other side. So I'm going to brush in the opposite direction to make sure I'm coating all of my hairs. And then I'm going to brush in the direction I want to lay them at. And you can even go one step further and press them down like I did with the other side, just to ensure they're not going to go anywhere. Alright, so there's the bushy brow look. I've been contemplating or debating if I should tweeze underneath. I used to have a much cleaner look under the eyebrow, but you know, the bushy brow look came in, so kind of gave it a rest. But now I'm just going to wipe away that bake that we did. And I didn't, again, apply as much powder as I would if I was doing full makeup. But I did bake some. And remember, laying down that loose setting powder layer before baking is going to help to make sure it doesn't cling on to dry areas. And very importantly, make sure to moisturize. That way, if you have any dry or flakiness, you're adjusting that before you're applying the powder, because this can look drier very quickly. And I'm just going to keep taking that brush and pass it over any areas that have a little bit of shyness or shininess that I don't want them to have. Perfect. So we could call it a day, end it there, and head out the door. But if we wanted to take this one step further, we absolutely could. So this would be the finished look for the, I guess, version 1 of the No Makeup Makeup. If we wanted to take this one step further, we could apply a little bit of bronzer as well. So I'm going to be using the Wet n Wild Megaglo Contouring palette in the shade Dulce de Leche. So this is just what it looks like. And I'm going to take, again, the bronzer shade. I'm going to apply a little bit to my brush here. And I'm going to go right above the hollow of my cheekbone on both sides, as well as in the temple area on my forehead. So I like to do it up very high, just because I don't want it to take over my forehead and then have my forehead look muddy. I can put some under the nose as well, and under my chin. If you have any extra left over, you could also easily just brush it on your lid just to give it a little bit of color. If you wanted to bring a little bit of brightness to the eye area as well, you could easily use a pencil shadow. So I'm going to be using the ColourPop Shadow Stick in the shade Honey BB. And what I'm going to do is I am going to just apply it more so towards the center of the lid, a little bit higher up, because again, with my hooded lids, you can't really see a lot of what I put on the mobile lid, so I'm just going to put it right above just to bring a little bit more light towards the eyes. And if you wanted to be a little bit extra, you could even put it on the inner tear duct, just the smallest amount, again to bring in some brightness to the eyes. Lastly, because we did say we were going to be a little bit extra in this phase too, we can also go in with mascara. So I'm just going to take my Essence Volume Stylist mascara, and I'm going to make sure to wiggle it a lot at the base of the lashes. So I'm going to tilt my head back, look down, open my eyes, keep your mouth closed, and wiggle it at the base. I recently noticed when I was doing my makeup too, this kind of serves as a tight lining method. And this mascara that I'm using specifically, it lengthens the lashes. So I'm not the biggest fan of volumizing my lashes just because of the short amount and how short my lashes are. But with the lengthening ones, I do feel that I can achieve a more natural looking lash without it looking clumpy or spider leg-y at the end. So before I do the second one, I'm just going to show you the difference. This is with the lashes, with the mascara on the lashes, and this is without. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some on this side as well. And as I mentioned, because you are wiggling at the base, it does kind of serve to tight line. You can absolutely tight line if you want. I'm not the biggest fan of doing that just because it feels so weird on the upper waterline. And of course, we're all human. As you can tell, I did accidentally transfer some of the mascara onto the lid. What you can do in these cases is you're actually going to wait for it to dry, give it some time, and then you're going to wipe it away with a Q-tip or something similar. But make sure it's dry before you flick it off. Otherwise, if I try to go in and clean this up right now while it's wet, I'm just going to smudge it more. And of course, how could we forget lips? You can easily line your lips as well with something that you want. Of course, I'd suggest something more natural, or you could go for something of a red lip with this look. I'm just going to take my Revlon Colorstay in the shade Nude, and I'm going to line. This is very close to my actual lip color. And I'm going to go ahead and take a gloss now. I'm going to take the shade Gummy, and I'm going to apply the gloss now. Alright, so this is the finished look. I hope this was helpful for you guys. As always, if you have any comments, questions, or recommendations, leave them in the comments below. Hit like, subscribe, share to my video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.